like to call to order the regular monthly meeting of the Board of Trustees of the Village of Lake Barrington. It is Tuesday, August 6, 2019, and 7:01. So I will ask the clerk to please call the roll.
President Richardson.
Here.
Trustee Burke. Trustee Mitchell. Trustee Perkins.
Here.
Trustee Rigby.
Here.
Trustee Schaller. Trustee Thompson.
Here. Here. Would you all please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance to our flag? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Agenda item 4 this evening is approval of the minutes from our special committee of the whole and regular board of trustees meeting from last month, July 9th. Are there questions or edits or comments for the clerk at this time on this? All right, then Chair would like a motion to approve in block the minutes of the special committee of the whole and the regular board of trustees, July 9, 2009. May I have that motion?
So moved.
By Trustee Schaller, seconded by Trustee Thompson. Thank you both. All those in favor?
Aye.
Chair will ask unanimous consent that the record remain open for 5 days for trustees to submit necessary and technical corrections as needed. Without objection, so ordered. Agenda item 5 tonight, President's remarks. We have a bunch of neat stuff tonight. We all know of Murphy's Laws. One of Murphy's Laws, and Susie has the most recent learning of this, is no good deed goes unpunished. Well, Peter Schmalzer volunteered to help Trustee Thompson with resident focus groups, and they were remarkably successful.
Yes.
And by volunteering to serve the community, we said, now there's an opportunity to really hook them. Because we're all up here for the pay. And Dr. Joe Giangrasso, who so ably served this community, not only as a member of the Ethics Commission, but also as the head of the emergency room at Good Shepherd for so many years, is living more and more of his time in Florida, and so he very graciously tendered his resignation, and I knew exactly who in the community had the integrity and the ethics and the proven commitment to take the job, and we visited with Peter, and he was very gracious about this, so we're going to swear him in tonight for the position we have on the Ethics Commission. I'll do a motion and consent first, and then we'll call you up. And when you come up with your family too, please, because we're going to take some photographs and we'll put it on the website and the Facebook page. And I can tell immediately you're like all the men up here. You married well above your station in life. And what irritates me is that nobody ever challenges that contention. Chair would like a motion to advise the consent to the village president's appointment, Peter Schmalzer, to the Ethics Commission. I have a motion, please. By Trustee Rigby, seconded by Trustee Thompson. Thank you both. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Congratulations. And Mr. Bateman, our village attorney, will swear you in. Please come forward and bring your family. And we'd love for you to introduce your family. We video these meetings for the benefit of the residents, and we have some folks who actually really enjoy learning about the community this way. So first, welcome, and please introduce your family, then Mr. Bateman will swear you in.
Sure. Thank you, everyone. I appreciate the opportunity. My wife, Mary, and my son, Leo. And we moved into Lake Barrington in early 2016. And we came from Schaumburg, and it's a wonderful community, and looking forward to getting more involved.
I'm sorry that Trustee Burke is not here, because I gave him the same gateway drug. Be on the zoning board of appeals. It takes no time at all. just be warned that don't believe me on that stuff. Now that you have volunteered and been so successful in leadership, you can expect more to come your way. We're honored to have you join us. Jim, if you will please administer the oath.
If you would, Peter, stand over here next to your family, and that way I think we can get it
On camera?
on camera. And I'll kind of stand out of the way. Am I out of the way?
Yeah, you're great.
Great. If you'd repeat after me. I state your name.
I, Peter Sheldon,
Thank you. Having been appointed to the Office of Ethics Commissioner
have been appointed to the Office of Ethics Commissioner
in the Village of Lake Barrington,
in the Village of Lake Barrington,
in the County of Lake aforesaid,
in the County of Lake aforesaid,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Illinois,
and the Constitution of the State of Illinois,
and that I will faithfully discharge
and I will faithfully discharge
the duties of the Office of Ethics Commissioner
the duties of the Office of Ethics Commissioner
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my ability.
Peter, one of the things we sure be interested in you sharing with the community, not just the board, but with the community, is why you and your wife chose to make Lake Barrington your home, and has it been what you had hoped? And since you were so intimately involved in helping us deduce from residents what we can do to continue to advance the community, your observations about our future.
Sure. One thing that really struck us immediately upon visiting Lake Barrington, when we were looking for homes, we just aimlessly drove around, and the countryside is what really drew us to the community. I grew up in the city of Chicago, and so in the committee that we had a lot of people wanting to move out of the city into this area, and so it's a combination of urban and rural. That was really attractive. It's quiet, it's dark, there's no lights. That's one thing I learned on the committee was people like the darkness, and it certainly is that. And our family is going to live here many, many years. Schools, of course, is always a big draw. We're members of St. Anne's Catholic Church right down the road, so it really gives us a blend of rural as well as urban. So it's really it's the right blend and right proportion.
We're very grateful, and hopefully the Ethics Commission never has reason to meet seriously, but the administrator sends out weekly reports that you will now receive along with all the other village leadership. And as you know, this is often a question of who's able to step up on certain important assignments, and you've already done so, so we look forward to you doing far more than just the official confines of the office. The welcome mat's always out. Since he's not here, but his daughter's here to report on RPDDS, I'm going to volunteer Trustee Burr to host a dinner for all of us some night soon with expensive red wine. Thank you for taking the assignment. Thank you, very nice to meet you.
Thank you.
Bye, Leo.
Don't forget your car, Leo.
The second item under the President's report is an introduction and a report on our butterfly sanctuary. It actually links perfectly with what Peter just said, and come on up, Tyler. The mission statement of the village, or the brand statement of the village is, we are an oasis of gracious countryside living. And part of that is our remarkable respect and protection of green space and the things that attend to green space. And so hearing new village leaders talk about what brought them to Lake Barrington is a perfect segue to recognizing the fabulous work that Tyler Haas, a venturing scout, has done with our butterfly sanctuary. And it is very much a part of what Lake Barrington wants to be. I see you brought somebody with you. Would you like to introduce your guest?
Well, that man is my father. He's also an advisor within our crew, so kind of like a mediator.
Well, you're mighty lucky to have a dad who will spend and dedicate that time. I'm sure that may not always be evident to you, but I can promise you when you look back over the years, that's very much the case. Tell us about the project and how you went about it, and what did you learn that you were surprised by? What were some of the pleasant aspects of that?
It was a really cool project. So I kind of put a lot of planning into it and selecting a place to do it, and I'm really glad that you guys allowed me to build over here, because I worked with a pack, like a Cub Scout pack earlier, because I wanted it to be well maintained, and I didn't want to have that on the beneficiary to take care of. So they're gonna take care of it throughout the years, and hopefully it prospers and does well. Hopefully they don't do a poor job or anything, but it's just really cool. I went and got some native plants from out in Rochelle, a cool like little nursery, and they already had some caterpillars on them when I brought them back. So yeah, it's pretty cool. I hope it goes well.
We have a practice of letting the trustees up here offer comments and thanks and appreciation, so we're going to do that. I had one question though to start off, and then I'll go to my left and recognize Trustee Thompson for comments and questions. Are there certain kinds of flowers or plants that are better for butterflies than others?
Yeah, there's plants that like attract different species of butterfly, and then like they just vibe with other plants more so, I guess so to say. Caterpillars, for instance, like the ones that are low to ground, which are kind of I live by the rocks. Butterflies enjoy the sun and heating on rocks as well. But they'll kind of like nest in there and feed, and then as they grow and like do their little chrysalis thing, they'll eventually become a butterfly, and they really like butterfly weed. Very surprising, I know. And other sorts of plants. Yeah.
Where are you in school this fall? Where will you start?
I'm starting at Pratt Institute out in Brooklyn.
Wow, fantastic.
I'm majoring in architecture.
Oh, that's, we have a civil engineer.
Yeah.
I told her I was not going to hold her architecture degree against her.
Well, it is, what you're learning through scouting and what you certainly demonstrated here is the genius. When we say the pledge, it really actually means stuff. And what it really means is that free people can take charge of their destiny and do things affirmatively to better the community without somebody bossing them around. And I commend you for your character, because service is typically something that is not recognized in our society. In this building, service to the community is glorified. We are very proud of you. We are very proud of you. I'll yield to Trustee Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. President. Well, Tyler, this is just a wonderful, wonderful project. I'm interested in how you decided what plantings to put in the garden, in the sanctuary.
So I did some initial research, and then that kind of went out the window when I went to go pick up the plants. I kind of trusted, I got them from a nice lady. I kind of just trusted her with her judgment. I told her I wanted a nice variety to make it colorful, and she kind of just provided for that.
Well, terrific. Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Ricker.
My wife would be more than delighted to meet you. She's been trying to grow butterflies here for several years. She changed that garden completely over to native. We got milkweed all over the place, butterfly weed all over the place. Anything you need, come see us. We got it all. But again, I want to go what the President said here. I'm very proud of you. It's good to see your interest in everything you're doing for the community. And we'll water it, right? You're going to keep water for a while. So thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Perkins.
Well, we just walked out. Lieutenant, it looks fantastic. You've done just absolutely amazing job. We grow butterflies at home. My 8-year-old daughter, we've been doing it for about 6 years now, and we grow butterflies at home. They're kind of cheap. We ordered them on Amazon, so it's kind of cheap. But it's so fun, and it's such a great process. It's a great learning experience, and this I'm so anxious to see what happens here over the years, because I'm sure it's just gonna next summer it's huge. Question: is there a certain time that do they just keep producing butterflies all year, or what? Is there a certain? Do you know? Is there a certain month or?
I don't know that much.
I heard something about that the butterflies all fly to Mexico or something.
Yeah, they have like a migration pattern and stuff, which is why gardens are super important, because it provides like a resting spot, so they don't get like overly tired or healthy or something. But I don't know much as to like their patterns.
The exact dates. I suppose it's warm. So yeah. Well, it's really amazing. Thank you so much for doing that, and good luck. Thank you. Good luck in your venture.
Trustee Scheller.
Thank you, President Richardson. Again, our gratitude for the effort that you put into it. And speaking about butterflies, how many different varieties, do you have any idea how many varieties we could expect to attract?
The nice lady who gave me my plants gave me like a list of 5 different butterflies, but I can't really remember all their names. I know one of them was a monarch, pink lady she mentioned, and then an American something, which I guess is like red, white, and blue, supposedly, but there's supposed to be a few others.
Is there a time of year when they start and they then migrate back to wherever they're gonna
I don't know.
find out? And as far as upkeep and maintenance, well, you're not here, you're going to school in New York. What do we need to make sure that the garden continues to thrive?
So I think the Cub Scouts should have it under control pretty much, but check on it once in a while. There should be some twigs inside of the butterfly house. They kind of like to form their chrysalises on there. Kind of just hang out there. But other than that, just make sure nothing's like too dead.
Well, thank you very, very much for everything, and good luck that's been said to you in the future and your career moving forward. Thank you very much.
We're very proud, and to your dad, thank you for raising such a terrific young woman. It doesn't happen by accident, and I think you have much to be proud of. So, thank you both.
Thank
God
you.
bless. Please stay in touch with us.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. All right. Keeping on our environmental theme, we have an annual MS4 report on our MPDES permit from a good friend of this board's, Caitlin Burke. I'm not even going to ask tonight where you went to college because it just irritates Trustee Thompson and Shelley. But you know, in case you're looking for other architecture schools, Notre Dame has a great one.
Sure do. That's going to be a hard presentation to follow. But I'm here for the annual MS4 report. So this is the stormwater permit, which a lot of you are very familiar with by now. In June, we submitted, so this is the IEPA stormwater permit that the village has for being a municipal separate storm sewer system. So storm sewer separate from sanitary sewer. In the city, you have combined sewers, so everything goes into the same pipe. And then here we have separate storm and separate sanitary. So this permit is just for the storm sewer. So on behalf of the village, every year there are certain things that we do to keep in compliance with the permit. The big thing is the outfall inspections every year. So these are dry weather outfall inspections, and it's to check for what the IEPA calls potential illicit discharges. So during dry weather, there shouldn't be anything coming out of those outfalls, which are the discharge points of the storm sewer system. When you go out there after a rainfall, there's stormwater coming out, so it's hard to tell if there's anything illicit that could be coming out. Within the past couple of years, the IEPA changed the language of their permit, so it allows us to inspect fewer outfalls per year. So we just picked a few priority outfalls. The ones we chose they discharge directly to the Flint Creek, so we thought that they're bigger outfalls and they discharge directly to the creek, so we made them a priority for that reason. So last year we inspected those 3, and this year we're inspecting the same 3. And we already did the inspections for this summer. We haven't sent the report out yet, but it's in progress, and no potential illicit discharges there. We do water quality testing every year as well, and that's primarily a visual testing, and then we also use a turbidity meter just to see if there's a lot of sediment in the water. We submitted the annual report for the previous year on June 1st of 2019. What else? A new thing that we started doing last year was training. So Karen borrowed a DVD from Lake County Stormwater Management and then had a training for Cuba Township employees. So that'll cover things like stormwater pollution prevention, especially with regard to de-icing and salt usage and the pollutants that we find cause the most pollution in the stormwater in these areas. So, and then I believe that's it. And then this annual presentation is a requirement of the permit as well. So it's sort of an educational, public presentation.
Caitlin will go around the dais as we always do for questions. I'll just start off with one or two. Anything that causes your furrowed brow, do we have anything we need to worry about?
No, I think I say this every year, but all the communities in Lake County have a lot of the same sort of stormwater pollutants. I think we're all doing a lot better job of working together as a watershed. Unfortunately for the Flint Creek and Fox River, they're slower to form these watershed work groups. So I'm more familiar with in the Des Plaines and the North Branch, they formed these watershed work groups where all the communities can just join those groups, pay an annual dues, and so they sort of work together. And then you're off the hook for doing your water quality sampling, and they do all of that for you. And it just sort of, it's so there's no overlap in monitoring or anything like that. But as a whole, I think we're doing a lot better with regard to education, monitoring, and so I'm not seeing any red flags.
Great, thank you. I'll yield to Trustee Shallot for questions.
Thank you. Is the biggest source of pollutants like the salt during the wintertime as well as herbicides or things that are used on grass?
Yeah, that's exactly right. I would say salt is one of the biggest ones because it doesn't go anywhere. Once it's in the water, the chloride stays there. So you're sort of just piling it on every year. That's why we're trying to sort of revert to, you want to maintain safety, there's a fine line. You don't want to put not enough salt down, but using other methods instead of, NaCl is like the worst salt to use, rock salt to put down, puts the most chloride into the water. So using other options or just making sure that the trucks, this is why it's important for like Cuba Township to get the training so they know like pre-wet the streets before you put the salt down. It makes it stick a lot better. It doesn't bounce off the street right into the ditches and right into the waterways. So I think prevention for salt is one of the best ways to keep it out of the waterway. It's hard to take it out once it's in there. And then sediment is a big one from natural erosion. Will cause cloudiness of the water or construction sites. So making sure construction sites have their silt fence up and they're not releasing sediment into the storm sewers. And then, like you said, phosphorus, fertilizers, things like that.
There's been a lot of effort to improve that recently,
There has.
different products.
Different products. I think most fertilizers are phosphorus-free now. And then a lot of municipalities, I think like Barrington too, has phosphorus ordinance. So not using fertilizers containing phosphorus. And that seems to have been helping. But especially these communities that are further north, we get a lot from farms in Wisconsin. So that will always be an issue. Maybe at some point we'll start working a little bit better across the border. But yeah, for the most part, those are the big pollutants that we see.
And most of what we feed into is Flint Creek and the river
Yeah.
from here?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but I mean, it's no crazy spikes, anything that we wouldn't normally be seeing, I'm trying to think what fecal coliform is also a bigger one, but we've sort of decided that was from geese. Like geese can cause a lot of fecal coliform in the water, more than you would think. So a good way to deter geese is by planting native plants and not having turf grass right up to the water's edge because the geese really like that. But as soon as you start putting in the tall native plants, they can't see if there are predators around, and it kind of deters them from going in the water.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Trustee Perkins.
You know what, I was gonna ask, what are the top two or three things that cause, that are the top two bad guys, and then what we can do to prevent it, and you can basically just answer that question.
Yeah. That's what everybody wants to know.
Yeah, so have you seen, you said that we're doing better,
Yes.
and
You know,
like,
it's-
how many years has it taken for us to finally realize, and like, what's the, do you have any, like a?
It's hard, so it's hard to tell. So we used to do chemical water quality sampling, and so then you could compare from year to year, like the amounts of chloride, the amounts of phosphorus. But even when we did that, we would be sampling at different times of the year, and the concentration will change depending on when you do the sampling and where you do the sampling and how fast the water's moving at that sample point. So that was not as effective as we had hoped, and it's expensive to do that kind of sampling. So it's much easier to sort of get the overall picture when a watershed group is doing that work. So that's, I'm hoping, there is a Flint Creek watershed, Fox River Study Group that does this kind of work. And they have a lot of data on that shows that, we're doing it okay. But just in terms of what I've seen in your community and all communities is that the education is better. And even you guys talking about planting native plants and all of that, it just goes to show that it's catching on, so.
Yeah, that's great. I agree with you, education and even starting young too.
Right.
Do they ever go to schools and talk?
We do, yeah.
Just give little talks or?
Mm-hmm. There's a McHenry County Groundwater Festival that happens every year, and so we've been going out there and doing we do a floodplain model where you sprinkle pollutants on the board, and then you spray water on there, and it shows how everything runs off and into the waterways. So that's a good visual for kids.
That's great. That's great. Thank you, Carl. Thank you for that.
Trustee Rigby.
Yeah, you put my interest on the sediment. Technical question, Karen may know more about it. I know both of you know more about it. How do you clean out a line that's sediment that's silted up? How do you get that stuff out there?
Like out of the waterways?
Yeah.
Well, from construction sites, one way that we keep it from going in, besides like physical barriers like silt fence, you can use these flock logs or flock
Yeah, I've
bricks.
seen.
Yeah,
No, I'm
and
talking
that's
about once it's
pulled
in there.
out. Once it's in
because,
there?
The community I live in, Lake Barrington, shows they throw a lot of dirt, sand,
Oh, yeah?
and rock salt on the roads over there.
Mhm.
So sooner or later, those lines are going to silt up over there.
A lot
So
of
how do you
them.
clean it out? Because it's all underground and it's.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's what?
I said cha-ching.
Yeah.
What's the method? What?
Well, they dredge the bladders, so like you can
Water
pump
pressure?
water into this huge bladder,
Yeah.
and you let it sit for a few months, and then the silt, the water goes back into the ground, and the silt is inside. That's a very time-consuming and long way to do it, though. They did it at the golf course over here at Stonehenge a few years ago, to clean out some of the silt in one of their ponds. I don't know if that would work for
I
your
don't know.
lake, but
I mean,
Well, as much dirt as they throw on the roads, it's got to go someplace.
well, they're throwing salt on the roads versus
So it's a mixture of dirt and
Oh, they do
salt.
sand too.
And sand.
Well, they call it sand, but it's dirt.
Yeah. So eventually you might have to dredge.
Yeah, that's an important point
Okay,
because
so dredge
yeah,
is what?
people have been using sand now instead of salt because it's supposedly better for the environment, but then you've got sand going into the
Yeah.
storm sewer system, so.
So the question is, how do you get it out of there?
Through pipes you would jet it, but once it gets into the lake,
You have to-
then you're gonna
Yeah.
have to start dredging. And dredging is very, very expensive.
We know that.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a project going on right now, Lake County Stormwater Management's doing it, dredging Fiddle Creek, I believe. So that touches parts of Lake Barrington and Wakanda, I think.
In the north.
Yeah.
It's a tributary vehicle by which treated effluent from the Wakanda wastewater treatment plant is conducted to the Fox River.
Yeah, they have to go in there with amphibious excavators and.
Yeah, the
like,
big
actually
problem
scoop
was
it out.
the beavers, the pesky little things, dam the creek, and so the water backs up. And years ago, I remember the volunteers up there who were running that Fiddle Creek. There's actually a unit of government, of course, because we're in Illinois, where they have their own taxing authority. They would buy the dynamite, and they put on their waders, and they would go out and dynamite the beaver dams.
People like that.
You can see no downside to that. Yeah. But they, God bless them, because those were ferocious little engineers.
Oh,
They
sure.
kept building and building and building.
add one more thing?
Yeah.
To answer your question about the testing and so forth, some of the other watershed work groups are doing macroinvertebrate testing, which is these little tiny, I call them pac-mans, but little tiny, they're not even fish yet because they don't have a vertebrae.
No,
But they're like
fish
little
eat
critters
them.
in the water, which is indicative of how healthy a stream is. So places like the DuPage River Salt Creek Work Group, they can do this kind of studies because most of the towns they serve are on municipal wastewater treatment plants. Our Flint Creek, Spring Creek Watershed Partnership, the only town that has a water plant is Barrington. So they're under their own NPDS, MS4 permits and so forth. So it's hard for them to raise money or require membership because it's the wastewater treatment plants are the ones who are incentivized to clean the water because they're going to have higher standards that they have to treat to. So that's basically.
Yeah, LBS has
Yeah.
to stay within the standards too for
Yeah.
each year.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Further questions, Trustee Beard? Trustee Thompson?
Thank you, Mr. President. This is all very interesting. It really is. I can see you're really into this. It's amazing. It's so important. And when I was listening to your presentation, I just had one question. I'm a little confused.
Yeah.
You know, you're talking about sediment and geese droppings and all those things. Then you said illicit discharge. Is that something different?
Yes, that would be, an illicit discharge would be like somebody connecting something into the storm sewer
Okay.
or pumping something in that shouldn't be. Yeah, that's a good distinction. So a lot of the time, the water quality monitoring is looking for pollution from non-point sources.
Mhm.
So just overland flow runoff, stormwater runoff,
Sure.
whatever the stormwater picks up. But you're right, the illicit discharge would be more of a point source that we're looking for.
It didn't sound like we had much of a problem with that.
No, I've never
Well, good.
seen anything,
Well, good, terrific.
but it's good to check.
Thank you.
Caitlin, we're very grateful for your diligence on this. You know, from efforts to provide healthy environments for butterflies and for pollinating bees, from making sure that the ethics of the community are looked after properly, to this, it's all part of a commitment to the community. When we say we're an oasis of gracious countryside living, that not only meets the day-to-day lifestyle between people, but also the environment, which is you are a trustee of that for us. We are very grateful. And we're sorry your dad's not with us. Tell him we miss him.
I will, I'll tell Lisa.
He's been having way too much fun lately. We gotta get rid of
He
that.
has
Thank you for being with us.
Thank you. Thanks
Thank
for
you.
having me.
Thank you.
I have two other items under the President's remarks. First, I want to thank our colleague Jim Thompson for what was a remarkably successful music night at the Friar Farm Festival. It was great fun. And one of our former colleagues, Lauren Jesu, came by. Randy was there. I was there. Karen and Lisa, of course. John and Susie, I don't remember. I saw you guys. But it was great fun. And what I really liked is it introduced the community to people that followed the band rather than lived here. So we made some new friends as Lake Barrington. We got a lot of compliments on the village that night from folks coming up to me. They applauded the village's efforts to protect the farm and the open space initiative that enabled its protection. And it really proved the model. You know, nothing gets done without there is first a vision. And then after you get the vision, if it's a great one, it can still falter if you don't have the execution. And Jim, you so flawlessly conceived and then executed on the vision and the actual activity. It was marvelous. And Mother Nature cooperated.
Oh, thank God.
Yes, Mother Nature cooperated. And I will definitely be taking an Uber or a Lyft to the next one. And I want to thank our first responders who were
Yes.
there, the Lake County Sheriff's Department
Yes.
who directed traffic off of Kelsey Road, and of course the folks from the good folks from the Barrington Countryside Fire Protection.
Yes.
It was a really successful night. It was kind of a mini Ravinia.
Yes.
And I thought the country music nature of it fit the farm setting really aptly.
Yes.
So I want to thank you again. You did a spectacular job. It's especially nice to see families because the kids were running around and playing and having a good time. The music was going. And,
Yes.
I really commend you, and I want to give everybody a chance here. Randy, you were there. Would you like to?
Excuse me, may I make?
Oh, of course.
Thank you. Two things. First of all, could not have done this without our village administrator, Karen Donald-Lang, and our executive assistant, Lisa Jalapa. They did a marvelous job. They're just... And the other thing is just, I mean, I'm going to pass out a report on it and so forth, but, you know, I chair the Committee on Community Relations and Veterans, and it just seems like doing things like this are an opportunity to bring people in the village together, you know, in a social type of a situation so that people get to know each other and form family bonds and so forth, which can last a lifetime. And I think, you know, if we continue to do this the right way, I think we'll be very pleased with the results for the residents of Lake Barrington.
I agree with you, and I left out inadvertently in my mistake. The veterans of
Yes.
Lake Barrington Shores were kind enough to do all the parking direction, and when you have a large number of vehicles, you can have anarchy unless you have somebody really directing it. So I'm also grateful, and thank you for working with them to get them to volunteer their time for that. Randy, would you like to add anything?
Yes, well, a lot has been said. I just want, the band was very good. There was a really good band, and you're right, there were some people that actually, from other, they've seen it before, and they just came because of that particular band. So I just recommend us keep getting good entertainment. Good job.
Karen, anything you'd like to add?
No, not at this time. I'll wait for Trustee Thompson's report later.
Okay. Again, Jim, thank you. I also want to recognize we have a very hardworking, very capable administrator, and we're blessed to have her serve the community, but she has really been earning her pay lately. We have been partnering with Good Shepherd Hospital to work with the Illinois Department of Transportation in amending their originally proposed plan to have a full shutdown of Route 22, which would affect westbound traffic to Good Shepherd Hospital in a very significant and potentially hazardous way for public health and safety. There was quite a bit of work that had to be done to get an alternative plan accepted and approved, and Karen was indefatigable in her efforts and worked very closely with Landon Rose, who's the operations vice president at Good Shepherd Hospital, and with our advocates at Fidelity, who are our people in Springfield, and the hospital has a firm that they use too, or their advocate. The team play here was really exceptional, and you know, we are a study in contrast. Karen is logical, I am not. Karen is even-tempered, I am crazy. She is an engineer, and I'm a lawyer who's in politics for a day job. But the combination here was one that really allowed us to get a great outcome for the community. They're going to be taking an alternative plan that she can detail later under the Roads Committee report with Trustee Perkins, who chairs it. But I just want to say you have really exceeded beyond all of our dreams, your performance on this job.
Thank you.
Very, very grateful. I've got to applaud that. I would be remiss if I didn't recognize that a big part of the engineering debate was whether or not federal law would allow for the use of shoulders. And Becky Bateman did a fabulous review of federal and state regulation on shoulder use. And there is actually a best practice in the Federal Highway Administration on this. And she found it. And you don't need something with nothing. You just don't. And so we had a talented team, and we had great data, and the combination of the two was decisive for the community. And I really want to thank all of you. You know, you get tired of this line of work, you can be a government affairs person. I just want to say thank you. One other thing, I just emailed to Karen and to Lisa. I have a good friend who is just changed jobs, but he was part of he was the CEO of the Great Lakes St. Lawrence Seaway Cities Organization. He's the former mayor of Racine, Wisconsin. And they did a piece on their website on smart lawn smart tips for residents. caring for your lawn in a smart and environmentally responsible way, and it goes to the cables. And then they did a separate document on the benefits of green space that's properly maintained. Because the truth of the matter is, there are many middle-aged husbands on this dais, and you know what we do. If the directions on the label say 6, well, 12 is twice as good. And that's how a lot of this stuff ends up in the waterways. The best way to do it is what I do, and in full disclosure, they've been a client of mine a long time, is to do it. I hire a true green, or I hire another professional vendor who knows what they're doing and who are trained for it. You want to make sure that you don't have any alien or any fugitive materials getting into the water stream. So we'll put that on the website. It's good information. It's the Great Lakes St. Lawrence Cities Initiative. It's the mayors, the Canadian and the American mayors, whose cities border the Great Lakes and the St. Lawrence Seaway. But I got a whole over because I know John, and he went to work for the new governor of Wisconsin. So yeah, John, he's one of yours.
Yeah.
He went to Marquette.
All right. People did go to Marquette.
That's right.
Everyone else went to Notre Dame.
They'll
That's
always,
okay.
they'll always be the Warriors.
That's right.
No, they were the Hilltoppers before that.
Well, we can move on. We are now on agenda item number 6. This is the first opportunity in the agenda for the public to address matters that are not otherwise on the agenda or non-agenda items. Is there anybody seeking recognition?
That would be fine.
Okay. Yep.
Hello.
For the record, for the camera's sake, for the record, please, your name and your address.
Sure. So Christopher Bauman, 25168 North Cayuga Trail, Lake Barrington. I've been here before. I presented in front of this board about a year ago. So Farm Trails, for those of everyone who was here, has been struggling with flooding issues now for quite some time. And we came in front of the board and we wanted to try to figure out solutions. Some of you may have remembered, and during that time period over the last year, we've done a lot. We've done a lot of work. Karen has been phenomenal. We spent a lot of time with Karen, and she's been very responsive and really done everything she possibly could to connect us with the right people, and we're very appreciative of that. Karen and President Richardson, obviously, we had our sit down, and that was very gracious of you. We sat down with Lake County. We sat down with pretty much every entity that would have an interest in our flooding issues, and it was an amazing meeting. At the end of the day, what we've been able to do is we were able to figure out solutions that would work and solve the problems that we had, long-term solutions, and then a solution that would allow us then to keep the waterways fixed indefinitely moving forward as a community, as a Farm Trust community, which was our goal. I took over as president 2 years ago and kind of inherited what had happened in the past, and we've taken steps to increase our dues and do different things to make sure that we have a very good system moving forward with our waterways in our community. So what we've done since we sat down is we secured grant money from, I'm going to let Rob Jones, what was it?
Lake County Watershed.
It was Lake County Watershed. We secured money from our community. So we had a community meeting, we secured money from our community, and we found the solution that was going to be most cost effective without breaking the bank for anyone. And that took a lot of time and effort. And, Rob Jones, who is on the board with me and is one of the homeowners affected by this flooding, also spent a significant amount of time getting quotes and doing various things. So we've done a lot of due diligence, is I guess the point I'm trying to get to. And the solution we found, we believe is going to be the solution that will help us long term, be self-sustaining, is without our reach financially with the grant money and with our community money, which we're dedicating over 50% of the money we have to this project, is without our reach. And it's my hope coming here tonight that, and I'm not sure the process on this, which I'm sure we can sort out. It's my hope that Lake Barrington can help us fill this hole and help us get to the end line with this solution, and then moving forward allow us to, and allow me as president of Farm Trails now to maintain that solution moving forward so that we don't have to come back, if that makes sense. And again, I know there have been times in the past, I think 10 years ago, that someone else came in front of this board and asked for help with issues with flooding, and you guys were very gracious to do that. And now, moving forward, I'd like to be able to, for us to handle it, but we need a little help, because we've done the due diligence, we've done the work. Lake County felt that our problem was significant enough to give us this grant, and they were very good and diligent and creative on how to do this. Our community felt that the problem was significant enough that they are going to commit our monies to make this fix, and I'm hoping that Lake Barrington can also do it. And I appreciate your consideration, and I'm not sure how much detail, and President, maybe you can kind of guide me with this, how much detail is needed right now, or how to do this.
Sure. One of the things that I'll do is first ask the administrator to kind of provide a review for all of us. Chris, we're not in a position to vote tonight because it has to be put on the agenda and it has to be noticed for 48 hours and so forth. So we want to take it under advisement so that we can perhaps consider it in September. The dilemma we face is pretty straightforward. And I struggle with it just like you guys have. You want to help your neighbors, and that's a very powerful motivator. Conversely, we have to be sensitive to precedent and establishing precedent, because otherwise it's not X dollars for farm trails, it's X dollars for farm trails times the same number of subdivisions everywhere. And that would probably require an increase in everybody's residential property taxes. And so our hesitation is not out of a lack of empathy for the circumstance at all. It's finding a way to make the economics work that is sensitive to establishing precedent. One of the things that we've discussed, and I'll turn it over to the administrator so she can provide some background and talk a little bit more about this, is special service areas. Twin Ponds, which is north of you off of Roberts Road, they had an issue with a sidewalk which was built there when the county resurfaced to put the traffic circle in at Roberts and River Road. And we established a special service area over them, and their share was simply added to their tax bill. So that way Farm Trails residents didn't pay for the Twin Ponds sidewalk. So there was an equity there that made some sense. So I'm certainly open to a special service area as a way of just dealing with it. It's clean and it's neat, and that way you're not making dunning calls like a bill collector. Sure. Because I've done that in my HOA in the past too. And there's probably no more skillful political operative in either party the last 40 years standing in the Oval Office than Bill Clinton. He said, toughest two jobs in American politics, school boards and HOAs. Mm-hmm. So you have my appreciation for your efforts. We will give it serious consideration because we understand the problem, but I want to be fair in setting the expectations that we are mindful as trustees that we can't establish precedents that open the public fisc, because the problem that you have costs this much, but somebody else's problem might cost this much. And so once you go down that road, it's sometimes hard to go back. So that's what at least I'm personally wrestling with, and not out of a lack of sympathy or empathy for the predicament. Karen, you want to give everybody kind of a quick update, and you can, Chris, you and Rob can certainly add additional commentary to this as Karen goes along.
Sure. As Chris was saying, their HOA has been working very diligently in trying to help alleviate the flooding that happens behind Mr. Jones' home and a few others along the eastern portion of the Farm Trails boundary line. It's adjacent to Tower Lakes. We reached out to them, I reached out to them, and they had no interest in participating with any solution. I believe the project basically involves building a second storm sewer from an existing pond along the property line down to a discharge to another pond because the northern pond rises with water and overflows quite rapidly. I believe they hired an engineer in the past, Mark Toberman, to take a look at that. They did receive a grant from Lake County SMC, which has a grant program for HOAs to help resolve drainage problems. And I believe you're still about $13,000 short.
That is correct. That is the hole that we need to face. So the grant was for 10. We have 10 available to do this, and then 13.
And another 13. So I think one of the, and I don't know what the time frame is on your grant.
So, and that's also why there's an urgency here, and why if we're going to take a vote on this at some point, sooner the better, because we, not only climate-wise, we need to get the job done, but also then the grant expires. I'm not sure the exact date, but it expires in the season. So we only have this season to utilize the money that we've been granted for.
Well, and I'll ask the village attorney to maybe offer an informal reaction to this. At the federal level, and I attend the US EPA, or the US Conference of Mayors meetings, so you talk to mayors who have big cities with real big sewer and water and stormwater systems. Years, I mean, 45 years ago when they created US EPA, they gave EPA the ability to do a revolving loan fund. And so that cities who had to build $1 billion sewer system could not possibly muster that kind of capital, could do so. And then they paid it back over time. Could we do some kind of revolving loan thing that's covered by the subsequent SSA in terms of the financial obligation?
Well, the issue with that would be that the process for an SSA is basically you prepare a list of homeowners with PIN numbers. You send, and then you mail a notice to everyone who would be in the SSA, and you publish a notice in the newspaper. That notices have to go out 15 days before a public hearing. Public hearing is held, and then there's a 60-day waiting period after the public hearing before the SSA can be created. So you're really talking about 90 days from start to finish in terms of setting up.
And could an SSA reimburse subsequently?
It could, but it would have to be in place beforehand to do that. In other words.
So it has to predate the expenditure.
Right, because because the homeowners, if they disagreed with it, would have the ability to file a petition and block the SSA creation.
Well, I can certainly count on you guys to look at something like, because your point is understood, and I appreciate you giving the reaction there. I am torn because I'm really worried about the precedent it establishes.
Yeah, and I just wanted to ask real quick, so on the precedent side, has there been a precedent where Lake Barrington's helped other communities in the past? I'm not sure, and I haven't done the research.
No, well, we helped you guys in Farm Trails once, and then subsequent to that, the issue for Twin Ponds came up, and the precedent issue was raised then, which is why we established a special service area to finance the construction of the sidewalk that now borders the north side of Roberts Road, connecting the two sections, so that passengers or pedestrians could have passage between the two parts of the subdivision. I don't want you to hear no, but I can't let you hear yes either.
No, and I understand too the predicament, and I do also believe in fairness.
How would you, explain a little bit, Jim, just for everybody's benefit, but especially for Chris and Rob's benefit, how it works. Maybe the Twin Ponds example. I mean, it just shows that the money is spent.
Right. What we did in Twin Ponds example is we composed a list of property owners and PIN numbers, the taxpayers of record, and we then mailed notice to all those taxpayers in Twin Ponds, and also published a notice in the newspaper, held a public hearing, we waited 60 days, and then we basically passed the ordinance to create the special service area. And one other thing worthy of mention is that 10 subdivisions in the village already have special service areas. Your subdivision just happened to be done before that was the policy of the village going forward. There are 10 of the more recent subdivisions all have special service areas as backup.
I would
structures.
want.
Right, yours does.
And so if this issue happened in my subdivision where we have one, it would be added to the tax bill of the subdivision's residents, their property tax bill. And again, you wouldn't be that hounding.
Right.
And having made those calls, I have genuine sympathy, Chris.
No, and I think because of the timing,
Yeah.
I'll let Rob talk next. There's just all sorts of idiosyncrasies which have happened in our subdivision, and I think that that's
I will
also
ask Karen to
Challenges.
find out what the expiration date on the grant is, because if we need to have,
See if we can get it extended.
I can't hear you.
We could ask Lake County about the possibility of extending the grant due to the circumstances of establishing SSA. But I think one thing I would want to point out that I think you have about 55 houses.
There are 55 houses, and it's a very diverse
Right.
homeownership. A lot of our homeowners have been there for a long time. And
Right.
do live on these ponds and different things.
Understood.
Yeah.
So for an SSA, like you'd say $13,000 divided by 55, it'd be $236 a household. Well, when you establish an SSA, there's legal fees that get wrapped up into that with the establishment of the SSA and the recording and everything else. So you might be looking at double of that, but it would be paid over perhaps a 10-year period on your tax bill. Some residents don't like to see an SSA on their tax bill because people sometimes question it. If they're going to buy your house, they'll say, what's this SSA?
Yeah.
What can it be? You know, it's
That's
just,
what I've heard.
Yeah.
That's been, I've already kind of fielded, just so you guys understand, I've already started,
you've started.
fielding this, and
Yeah.
there's been a lot of different responses. The biggest thing was, we already are trying to sell homes in our community, and a lot of them are on these ponds, and that's a big deal to the people.
Right.
So I think that road may be, troublesome, but I'm open to any option, and we want to work, try to find the best option.
well, does an SSA have to be specifically a boundary by a subdivision, or can it be a select number of homes?
It could be a select number of homes.
Like it was in the bonds?
Yeah, yes. Well, I think it covered all of them. Yeah, I think it covered all of them. But no, it just has to be a contiguous area. So all the lots that might be covered would have to be in a compact hole that touches each other. So I mean, if you did like, say, the eastern tier of the subdivision along the wetland, that could be a special service area as opposed to a special service area in the whole subdivision. The law does say that not everyone in the special service area has to receive the same benefit. There's degrees of benefit in every, and as I remember, there isn't a formal, am I right that there's not a formal detention area in farm trails?
Oh, there's a few ponds.
Yeah, right, the ponds are the detention area.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So the pipe itself actually butts up against Tower Lake, so would they be a participant in said SSA?
No, I mean, the village has no ability to impose a special service area on another, the residents in another village.
The piping is in Farm Trails property. It may benefit other homes in Tower Lake because they're uphill with that, and some of their land flows to that pond, but no.
I think while giving us the 30,000 would be great. If the answer is no, we did have some other solutions or avenues to pursue. One was Tower Lakes, the other was through Keeper Township, and see if they were able to perhaps work with us on a discounted rate to perform the work. I did leave several messages from Mike Haynes. He returned one of my calls, but of course I was in a meeting when he called, and haven't gotten a hold of him since. He was the one who sponsored us for the watershed bill. So we are open to other suggestions. If it is, we're not going to give you that 13,000. If there's something else we could potentially, other avenues we can work out, we'd be happy to hear those and pursue those. As far as precedents, I know we're coming here with a pretty big ask. We understand that. And the project itself overall is pretty big. We're asking for about a third of the cost. well, it sets the precedent, you said that you are outlaying money to us. Precedents could be that, look, you guys do everything you can to settle this on your own, come up with, the majority of the money. So I think that could be a precedent as well, as far as, we're going to help you out if you absolutely need it. We do expect you to, do a lot of the work and, fund a lot of the project yourself. Just trying to use that.
Just to be clear on funding, the reason why we're only at 10,000, that's 50% of our total holdings. And I just felt as president it'd be irresponsible and a hard sell to give out more, right, than 50% of everything we have saved for one project. So just so when it comes to funding, just so everyone understands that we've really done a lot of work, both in our community and education, and politically, you name it, to kind of get to this point. And any help is very, we're very, very grateful for in any way.
Is this association still active and incorporated?
It is, yes.
Okay, and does it have the ability to impose assessments?
We increase our assessments.
We've increased our daily, our annual dues, if that's what you consider the process.
Well, does it have the ability to impose mandatory assessments?
I do not know if there's a special assessment mandatory, if we have the ability to do that. I'm not sure. We have an annual due that we do put on everyone, on all 55 homes. Like a special one, I'm not sure how that would work, but I can get back to you.
And everybody has to pay, or they get a lien on the property?
Correct.
Okay, well, that means it's a mandatory special assessment. So you answered my question, thank you. Or a mandatory assessment, not a special assessment, but.
That's correct.
The HOA do revolving loan deals, like EVA.
I mean, they could finance the whole thing and then look for reimbursement from the village if we were able to create the special service area.
Okay. You've given us some food for thought. As I said, and I'm happy to recognize, I'll go around and ask colleagues for their reactions too, for your benefit. I don't want you to hear no, but I can't tell you yes. And what you will get is an honest effort. And I'm very sympathetic. Trustee Perkins and I are neighbors, and we've had a lot of flooding along Kelsey Road in the area. We've been working with Lake County about trying to get it to drain across under Kelsey Road to the wetlands, and it's just been a decade of the time. The mosquitoes are the size of Buicks.
The countryside living, right?
Yeah, we put saddles on them and the kids ride around there. So I'm sympathetic. We've had to finance a lot of our own repairs, and it's no fun to make those calls. So you have some sympathy, certainly, but I don't want you to leave here without the benefit of me telling you the truth. I respect you enough to tell you the truth. I'm very, very cautious about opening up other people's wallets, and because it's been my experience that sometimes the people are very gracious about it. We get great support, and sometimes there's well, why in the world should I care about farm trails? I live in south on Long Route 22, and my argument has always been we're a community and we help each other. And then the burden it places on you is if the rainy day comes somewhere else, we can't have farm trails folks in here complaining about helping other neighborhoods.
And I totally understand and agree, and I think kind of getting back to community, that's exactly what, at least the community I want to be in. It's a community that if people are in need, we help them, and you are all elected and you've done an amazing job. By the way, the butterfly exhibit, that's awesome. I'm an Eagle Scout, and I'll tell you, obviously scouting has gone through a lot over the last decade, and it's just so refreshing to see that such good is being created, and such great young people is being created. So you're going to be incredibly successful, and thank you for representing me with that. So thank you. So I understand the vision of the community, and I understand what you're saying. I understand the difficulties and decisions. But our hope is that as a community, we can also use whatever funds we have to help each other in ways we can.
Yeah, we've had this discussion separate from your circumstance. This has come up in other contexts, not just flood control. And there's no easy answer on this, and I'm constantly reminded that people get real
Tower Lakes invades us, at least, Barrington Harbor.
And I certainly don't have any
I
objection
don't
to
be left hanging.
I certainly have no objection to calling their president, who I'm acquainted with, they have no retail, so they have no tax base other than their residential property taxes. And I would be cautious in voicing any enthusiasm for their participation financially, but I certainly don't like asking.
Well, and that's appreciated. And everything that you've done, President Richardson, Karen, again, all the work that you put into it has been greatly appreciated. Even just getting Lake County to the table, getting we actually had the first engineer ever of Farm Trails. We tracked him down, and he came to this meeting, which was pretty phenomenal. And he had such good insight. And, it would take a lot more time, which I'm sure everyone's getting home to their families, a lot more time to explain everything that we've had to go through or sift through, or different things that have changed over the last, 4 years.
I'm going to ask, you triggered a thought. Your state representative is a new one, just elected last November. We just met with her, and you're with it. Lake Barrington has 2 different state representatives, and with the big capital bill, this might be a capital bill request because she's got potential capital bill funds coming. So maybe we should go with great haste. I'm leaving the country for 10 days to go drink painkillers and put my toes in the sand. So I'll make sure that the administrator in my absence, who does a better job anyway, will reach out. We may need you guys to meet with the state rep on this.
No problem.
Because with the capital bill being passed in Springfield, members get member initiative money for just this kind of stuff. Don't know what her commitments are elsewhere, so I can't speak for her.
Thank you for even thinking about it.
Now let me go around the dice in case people have comments or questions. Let me start with Trustee Wrigley.
Well, I don't have anything to add to what the mayor said, other than the fact that I think it's encouraging to see if this capital bill can be a potential source. That's not very much money for the state, and so that could be doable. That's very good.
Trustee Perkins.
I feel where you're coming from because this happened in a similar situation has happened in Kevin and my neighborhood, in our friends in Pheasant Ridge, and it just live in a flooded area, and yeah, it's I feel your pain because it's frustrating and it's like, oh gosh, what are we gonna do? And I'm happy that you guys got the grant that you did, and I think you're on the right track, asking for advice from Karen and Kevin. Karen, she's amazing. She's a problem solver. She's a problem solver.
No pressure on you.
But
So Karen, I'll be calling you.
yeah.
More. Yeah, we're gonna go to hourly instead of daily.
Yeah, she's amazing. But I do feel I feel your pain because I know there's just we just had so much lives, and we like I said, we've had it in our own neighborhood, and we
passed the hat. We only have 13 homes.
We can't. Yeah, we didn't. Yeah.
So we're
Our HOA is right down there too. Our financials are. We had to kind of dip in to do some things. So yeah, I feel your pain. But yeah, if I understand what you're saying. If the whole president's thing, it's like everybody's gonna come up. Didn't we have someone from Pheasant Ridge a few months ago with the flooding? Yeah.
On Mrs. Scott's property.
Yeah.
It's almost like a collection bowl. Yeah. We had it pumped a couple of years ago because of the public health problems with mosquitoes.
Yeah, I guess what I'm thinking is if we did say yes to anyone, it'd already be gone. It would be gone.
Well, that's the struggle. So.
Yeah.
Trustee Scheller, anything you'd like to?
No, other than, I think we're dedicated to trying to explore every option that's possible, and that's about the best that we can do. I understand the special service areas and homeowners' objection to that. I live in Lake Barrington Shores, we have special assessments all the time. You talk about trying to sell a property, with a special assessment on it, it's the same situation. Who's going to pay for it, by having it taken care of, can be a negative, but I hope we can arrive at a solution that works out for everyone and everything else.
Trustee Thompson?
Thank you, Mr. President. How many homes are affected by this? Of the 55?
About 7.
7? Okay. You know, pardon me, after all you've heard here tonight, I think that one of the things I'd like you to, as a takeaway, would be that we really want to help you as much as we possibly can. And with Karen and President Richardson working together on this thing, hopefully we'll be able to come up with a solution for you that works.
And that's very appreciated.
Yes. So, yeah.
Let's talk about next steps because it's important for you. I think I will ask the administrator to connect you with our state rep who represents your subdivision. Also, our county board member, Mike Danforth, while you've dipped into one county pot, there might be other county pots that he can identify. You don't know unless you ask for that. I will ask Mr. Bateman to provide a short memo on the process of a special assessment the village reimburses after an SSA is undertaken, pursuant to your comments.
Sure.
And we will leave nothing unexplored. We will leave no stone unturned on this. We understand it. And I wish there were a simple, it's fun to give away other people's money. And so the hard part of this job is when you can't readily do it because you have to be worried about the future. So you have our commitment, certainly put a lot of effort into this in the next couple of weeks. I just gotten to know Mary Edley Allen a little bit. I know Mike Danforth quite well. I don't mind calling him. I'll call it. Please remind me to call the Tower Lakes president. And we will certainly start to see if we can, because if you can get 5 parties to each put in $2 grand, we're pretty damn close.
Well, and that's our hope and thought, and I guess you've already done a wonderful job putting parties together, and if we can get it within the time frame, which is the biggest thing right now, I think is.
Well, that's another point to please look at, is see if we can get an extension on the expiration of the grant.
Yeah.
And maybe my kids. Thank you, Jim.
No, thank you, and very appreciated, and you're all doing a wonderful job, and I understand very clearly, you're all elected to be stewards of the money that we're all giving, and I appreciate the diligence that you've taken in this. So thank you.
Would you please, right before you leave, just grab a piece of paper in the back and leave your names, your cell phone numbers, and your email addresses with the clerk, and just come up and hand it to her, so that I can make sure I can come back in touch.
Thank you. Really appreciate it. Thank you.
No problem. Thank you, Chris. Good to see you, Rob.
Thank you.
Anybody else seeking recognition? I see none. We will move to the consent agenda. Illinois law permits municipalities to adopt by a single unanimous roll call vote groupings of designated ordinances, orders, resolutions, and motions placed together for voting. In other words, voting in block. There will be a motion and then a second and a brief discussion if anybody has any comments to add. Typically, in the interest of time, what we do is we consider these in the committee of the whole prior, which is what we did, and we don't have a big one tonight, so we'll move to this. It is 7A, motion to approve the appointment of Susie Perkins to this board. She took the oath of office last month, but it was found that the motion to advise and consent as to her appointment had not been formally completed by the board, so we're going to take care of that tonight. Did I get that right, Mr. Baker?
Oh, yes, you did.
Even a blind squirrel can find a nut. Susie, would you go forward to the podium, and Mr. Bateman, would you do the honors, please? Oh, first we have to do the motion. That's how we got to do it last month.
No, we're not.
We're just doing the motion. I'm sorry.
Doing the motion.
I'm replaying the same mistake from last month that we made. That's my fault. Chair would like a motion to advise and consent to the village president's appointment of Susie Perkins as a village trustee for a term expiring on April 30th, 2021. May I have that motion, please?
So moved.
Trustee Rigby, seconded by Trustee Thompson. The clerk will please call the roll.
Trustee Rigby?
Aye.
Trustee Thompson?
Yes.
Trustee Perkins?
It's probably a mistake.
Trustee Shaw?
Yes.
President Richardson?
Yes, yes. With all the work that these jobs retired, maybe your husband should have been here to urge against a no vote to the grateful. And Susie, we're really appreciative. You do a splendid job as chair of our roads committee. And that includes flood control and other things that relate to maintaining the built environment here. So we are delighted to have you amongst us, and we're grateful for your contributions. And now you are formally one of us. You and the appointment of Karen as village administrator raised the average IQ of this board dramatically. We can move now to the treasurer's report, number 8. We'll start first with our treasurer's report. You know, if I don't stay on script, I get in all kinds of trouble.
All right, well, good evening. So before you tonight, I have the financial statements for the 2 months ended June 30th, 2019. So that means we're 2 months into our fiscal year. You can see on page 2 of our flash report, we have assets of $2,683,000, liabilities at $688,000, equity at $1,195,000, and that equals our assets, our liabilities plus our equity equals our assets of $2,434,000. Revenue for the first 2 months is $611,000. Expenses are $384,000, resulting in net income of $227,000. This is compared to net income last year at this point of $356,000. I did speak last month. We had a couple of differences that make that up. But one was $88,000 from the Weineke Trust for paving the parking lot, and there was about $33,000 of real estate taxes that came in earlier last year than this year. So looking below our bolded line, you'll see we've broken out some of our extraordinary items. There are none for this month. Last month there was $5,100, which makes our regular operations net income / loss of our net income is $232,000 compared to $356,000 at this point last year. That difference for those reasons I just mentioned above. One thing I will mention at this point, and we haven't really talked about this, the state historically has been very late in paying income tax to the municipalities. They basically have caught up, and they did that kind of in tandem with the reduction of our LGDF. They took about 5%, took 10%, gave 5% back, but they've last year made 13 payments. So they've caught up. So for anyone that's worried about the state, they're basically paying on time. It's a little bit of encouraging news there. If we flip forward to page 10 and 11, you can see we'll do our actual budget. I'll caution we're just 2 months into our fiscal year, so it's still a little early to make some really hard comparisons. Revenues are 20% actual budget, so that's right on plan. And expenses on page 11 are 12% actual budget. So we're trending a little bit ahead of what you would think would be if you were just to take the expenses over each month. Pretty much everything's that we've budgeted for us. Everything's performing as expected according to budget at this point. So I'm happy to answer any questions on the general fund if we have any at this point before I move on. Okay, page 12 for the motor fuel tax fund. The fund currently has $267,000 of current assets. That fund grows about $10,000 to $11,000 a month. We are not planning to use that fund this year for any road work. That'll be in fiscal year 21. We'll use that money for road work. Page 16, the water sewer fund. We have net current assets in there, $1,532,000. Everything's going as planned according to budget so far. We do have $180,000 of planned expenditures in the fund for this year. Before I go to the accounts payable, any questions on any of the funds?
And you may have just mentioned this, I was looking at some of the figures. With the state increasing the gas tax, don't we get more?
We will. We won't see it until September. By the time it all trickles.
So municipalities get a piece of that.
The estimate is about 50% more than we're receiving, so it's an extra $5,000 a year. A month.
Okay, so real
So
money.
it's real money.
Yeah.
Yeah. So those are the projections as of now. We'll see what how it bears out. Okay, so the accounts payable, the warrants have been reviewed. They're there for your approval. There's a number of unusual requests, and especially as we get into more work with the Osline grant, you'll start to see some new vendors Be rest assured that, those of, obviously, our village administrator has reviewed those, and they're going to fall within the parameters of that grant. Starting just right, Warrant A, Appraisals Telephone, there's a request for $2,939.50. This is the final bill for the installation of security cameras at Village Hall. That did come in, the total project came in at $5,879, so it is a little over our $5,000 budget. Client First Computer Consulting, there's a bill there for $1,147.50. This is progress billing. There was a $24,000 contract approved at the July meeting, so this is certainly working towards that. Diligent Corporation for $3,500. This is the agenda management program. I know Village Clerk Lisa has worked hard at choosing that vendor, and that was in the budget, and that is there tonight for your approval, the invoice.
Excuse me, I would just like to make a note of the fact that our village administrator had no expense in the month of June.
I didn't. I probably just haven't gotten my,
Expense reports. Yeah.
Well, there's
I did.
a deadline. There's a deadline.
It's, I think there's on Warren B.
Yeah, might be on work.
It's on Warren B. No, there is one. Peter Baker and Sons for $148,930.16. This is the first pay request for the Anderson Road work. There's just going to be a small contingency left to pay. That contract came in at $156,000. The budget was actually $170,000, and school impact fees were used to pay for that work. Phone Lines Inc. for $2,717, and that's electrical work on a light pole for security cameras. This amount was not in the budget. It's within the administrator's spending authority, and it was necessary to install the cameras at a proper height.
Well, yeah, some of the lights out there were on the photo cells, so we couldn't have the security cameras going off when the lights went off. So they had to rewire into the building for some of that. So.
There's two expenses related to the OSLAD work, ILM for $1,550 and Thompson Surveyors for $6,522. And those, as I mentioned, Administrator Dalton has definitely reviewed those and included in the OSLAD grant. And then the Water Sewer Fund has one unusual invoice, and that's $4,475 for piping work. Fox River Grove did obtain 4 proposals before choosing that vendor. And this will fall under this year's budget. And then finally, there's just one request on Warren B to note, and that's applied ecological services for $2,476.25. That was OSLAD related work once again, and that's part of a $40,420 contract that was approved at the board June work. Okay, that was a bit much, but I just wanted to point out any unusual vendors. We'll have a lot of, like I said, first 10 vendors coming up. I'll point those out to you each month. Any questions?
As you said earlier, Treasurer Hirsch, this early in the year, it's hard to really draw a trend.
Yeah, it's,
And I've always been looking at lots of budgets over the years. I am sensitive to timing differences, sometimes having a artificial impact. But it's, certain expenses move to April, like first quarter look good. And
a lot of revenues early in the year as well. So.
thank you very much. Are there questions for the treasurer at this time? As always, thank you.
Absolutely.
You provided some very good data under the direction of Trustee Rigby, who chairs this committee, and our village accountant, Debbie Vernon, on long-term budget trends, and we're very grateful for that work. There are plenty of storm clouds in the state and in the country, so it's good to have a heads up on how we can prepare to successfully meet the future. Thank you for the hard work.
Absolutely.
Thank you. And how's that grandson?
It's 4 months old. It's just the most precious thing in the whole world.
Oh, that's wonderful. Chair would like a motion then to approve in block agenda items 8A through C. A, approve the financial statements as of June 30th, 2019. B, pay bills in the amount of $368,349.17 as listed on the accounts payable warrant A dated August 6, 2019. And C, Pay bills in the amount of $35,110.04. Thank you, Lisa, for putting it in there. As listed on the accounts payable warrant B, also dated August 6, 2019. May I have a motion?
So moved.
By trustee Schaller, may I please have a second? By trustee Thompson, thank you both. Clerk, will please call the roll.
Trustee Schaller.
Yes.
Trustee Thompson.
Yes.
Trustee Perkins.
Yes.
Trustee Rigby.
Aye.
President Richardson.
Yes, thank you. Agenda item 9 is the administrator's report.
Sure. Speaking of getting money from a lot of different places, many of you saw an article in the Herald about the Open Lands Commonwealth Edison grant that we received for $7,000. Our partners, Citizens for Conservation, the Flint Creek, Spring Creek Watershed Partnership, and the Park District, along with Blue Stem Ecological Services, will start work we are in August this month. First, they'll be doing herbiciding of the area along Old Barrington Road in front of our Village Hall property, and then in the fall, Citizens for Conservation and Flint Creek will be planting trees and shrubs for our Healthy Hedges project. We also heard about the IPA NPDS tonight, but what I wanted to let everybody know is a few weeks ago I attended a task force where the IPA is now looking at communities where we get drinking water from the ground, like us. Like our water tower is groundwater, it's not Lake Michigan water. So they are looking at, and they have passed requirements for reporting, so we'll have to start doing that. It goes by the size of the town's water supply, so our first report won't be due for 5 years. So they're phasing this, and it'll be some more paperwork and keeping track of things. So my guess is there'll be a consultant that comes around and does this.
What do we have to do?
We're not sure yet because it hasn't all come out, other than the rules for of tracking and testing and things like that.
That's already being done, isn't it?
It is to a certain extent, and now these newer rules will apply to towns that get water from their groundwater.
I know they already do that.
Yeah, but it's actually more. So they're.
Then what do they do with it?
I don't know.
Create a new file.
So it's something that's coming down the line. I think they're going to be tracking also about the groundwater supply. There was some talk at this meeting about, don't quote me on the exact numbers, but for example, if McHenry County right now is using 10 million gallons of water a day, their aquifer could supply 9 million gallons of water a day for the next 15 years before they run out, that kind of thing. So.
Yeah, it's really to get a handle on making sure that resources are there to match the growth. And that's the story I've heard in some of the mayor's meetings in the counties. They don't want development that requires 15 million gallons a day to be built in an aquifer that only has 10 million gallons a day.
So they're looking more for like what we do for MS4 to protect the water. So what are our policies for impervious coverage, for example?
Is Baycog involved in this?
Yes, they were actually at the meeting as well. Janet Nicoletti was. So it's right now things are going down, and the IPA hasn't said, here, municipalities, here's what you have to do. It's still the.
Yeah, Trustee Rigby raises a great point. Janet's work from Baycog has gotten us far more ready as a community than other communities who didn't have the benefit of that service from Baycog. We're going to have an easier time complying.
Yeah, because she took me to Springfield, and we talked to a number of our legislators, and the discussion was around the U.S. government and the state that already does that kind of monitoring. I think there's 17 sites that they monitor from within the Baycog.
Yeah, USGS has some monitoring sites, and you'll hear Janet talking about calibration every once in a while. Some of it has to do with that. So yeah, so we might just be having a report based on her data.
Yeah.
We don't know what they're going to ask for yet.
And I don't know if LBS would be involved, because I know we have to follow IEPA with our well and drinking water.
You might, because your water comes from groundwater as well.
Yeah. So some of that information might be available, like contact your management and see what they have to do.
Once we know what we have to provide,
Yeah, yeah.
just coming down.
I would imagine that Baycott will comment when the state does some kind of regulatory proceeding to frame this effort.
Yeah.
I'm going to guess that Janet will file comments because she's pretty meticulous about it.
It's very early right now. So, I was going to talk about the governor's hometown award application. Were you going to talk about that?
Yes, I was.
Okay, then I'll
But
pass on
but
that.
I will, that will also to you.
Okay. Do you want me to talk about it, or are you going to talk about it?
Well, go ahead.
Okay. So, the Village of Lake Barrington has nominated the veterans of Lake Barrington Shores and their 2018 Brave Hearts program for the 2019 Governor's Hometown Award. In September, Trustee Thompson and the Veterans of LBS President Tom Byer will be traveling to Springfield to give a presentation on the program. So keep your fingers crossed. If they make that first hurdle, that first cut, then the five groups standing go down in November, for the award ceremony. So it's a very big honor. Not a lot of towns get the Governor's Hometown Award, but in talking with Laura Nicolini and the emails have been going back and forth, I think it's going to be a great application. So, and just a reminder that I'm going to be on vacation for the 2 weeks in September, from September 5th and returning on the 19th. So I'm just going to turn my email off and my phone off.
I've never done that.
So that's it.
Thank you. Questions for the administrator?
No, but tomorrow's her birthday, so I think we ought to wish her a happy
That's an outer.
Yeah.
29.
Yeah, I'm sticking with that. Yeah.
I didn't do that, he did.
Yeah.
We can move to the clerk's report.
Okay, I want to give a reminder that our barn stomp is coming up for everyone to save the date. That will be Saturday, September 28th this year. And one other item, privatewellclass.org is conducting a free webinar. It's called Well Care 101, What You Need to Know to Protect Your Family, and that is August 22nd. It'll be from 1 to 2:30 p.m. You can go to privatewellclass.org/101 to register, or you can go on to our Facebook page or our website. Just click on the link and you can register that way.
Okay. God bless all of you who have sat here tonight. This is rare that we get people in this room this long who aren't angry. I'm going to give you some good news. We're going to go through these committee reports very, very quickly.
I think we ought to give a special award to Leo, because he's been.
And Leo, when I adjourn the meeting, you can come up and help me have it shut, okay? I'll call you up and you can do it. We are going to start with 11A, branding and communications. Really, I don't have a lot to add. I mean, other than the work that Peter's done with Jim on this. I did talk to our videographer this evening, because one of the things I want to do is see if we can't translate some of our materials into Spanish and reach out and be more open. And I will kind of look into that. I'm going to do it more on the business side with the business park. There is a Hispanic Chamber of Commerce in Northern Illinois that I want to approach. And that's kind of about the branding and communication side. Although I will tell you, and because Tyler, you stayed so long, your butterfly garden is going to be absolutely a big part of the brand efforts. I mean, it's a great example that we put on the website, we can post it on the Facebook page, is we want to scream to people who were in Peter and his wife's position. If you're looking for a home and this is what you want, this is the place. This is the place. So your work will long survive the effort you put in, and again, appreciate it. I have nothing else on that. I will go to the other one, which is the external relations, 11D, and just to reiterate, we had a good outcome with the Illinois Department of Transportation on the Route 22 issue. Our partners at Good Shepherd were fabulous, as well as our first responder partners, who were equally, I think, eloquent on the concerns there. I want to commend Deputy Governor Christian Mitchell for what I think was an extremely skillful management of this issue. And I think we all walk away feeling good that transportation needs will be met, but in a way that does not threaten the access to the hospital in a timely manner. So those are my two. We can move to 11B, Community Relations, Special Events, and Veterans Affairs. Trustee Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd first like to go back to what the Village Administrator Karen Dahl-Lang was speaking about regarding the Governor's Hometown Award. That the Brave Hearts program, this is being presented on, is a program done where they use horses to provide PTSD work to veterans. And it's another example of community relations in the perspective that it was done at Friar Farm, and we had all sorts of people from around the village attend. And I believe that the original idea happened to come from our village administrator. And kudos to her for that. And she's working with, as she said, with Laura Nicolini at LBS to do that. So we're looking forward to continuing with that. On August 15th, Karen Dahl-Lang and I will have a fact-finding discussion on EV charging stations with a gentleman from Carbon Day Automotive. As more EVs are sold, the demand for charging stations increases. Public charging stations may have a revenue stream for the village, and so we'll be researching those potentials. What happens? And now, July 18th, as you all know, we had the free family concert at Friar Farm, and Lisa's passed out a report on that with, on page 1 is the well done and lessons learned. And rather than go through all of them, I'll just go to the bottom of page 1, where with the 81 attendees, it was certainly a test success. And Karen and I are planning concerts for Thursday, June 4 and Thursday, July 16 next year. We've checked with Lake Barrington Shores, and there are no conflicts with those dates. We will need a budget for 2020 events to build on our 2019 success, and that will be coming soon. And also, one of the other issues, one of the things I would like to point out on page 1 is Karen and I were talking about, with the usual starting times we have, where the sun is, etc., that we need some trees between the sidewalk and the garden. Karen is in the process of researching the types of trees that we'll need. We're thinking that we would like to have 3 shade trees planted equidistant between the sidewalk and the garden. And we want to use trees that are larger than saplings. And Karen and I think they'll cost roughly $2,500 each, but we have an answer for that. With the plans to offer village businesses and residents ceremonial plaques and media planning events for sponsoring the tree. So, and of course, village officials are welcome to sponsor a tree.
Count me in.
Thank you, there's one. Do I hear 2?
Yeah, perfect one.
Do I hear 3?
Council will do one.
So, on page 2 of the costs, and as you can see, that the leverage, or we saved 50% of the total cost of what we would have had to pay for this, which I think is terrific. And also, I have to say here that the value of the work done by Village Administrator Karen Dahl-Lang and Village Clerk and Executive Assistant Lisa Pena-Tlapa is beyond measure. And the village truly thanks you for all you've done. Thank you. That's it.
That's a fabulous report. Thank you very, very much. We will move to 11. Andy's not here. Is there anything, Karen, on economic development other than the opening and
All-American Reclaim opened last week, and Kathleen Scott and I, she's been reaching out to area businesses to meet with them. We're almost done with the proposals.
Okay, 11E, Finance, HR, and Administration, Trustee Rigby.
I just have one comment. I was contacted a couple weeks ago by Congressman Caston's office. They've invited me to be the speaker at the renaming of the Westmont Post Office in honor of the Medal of Honor winner James W. Robinson, who was killed in Vietnam in 1966 while saving his entire squad. There is a school in Fairfax, Virginia, named after him. He was born in Hinsdale. They've already named another post office down there, so they're naming the post office in Westmont, which is right next to Hinsdale after him. But the high school in Northern Virginia was named after him when they built it in the late 80s, and it's one of the most renowned high schools in the area. So anyway, I'll be doing that on the 30th of August. That's all I have.
Thank you. Thank you for your service on that. 11G, Public Safety, Gated Communities, Trustee Scheller.
Lieutenant Scott Turek was here from the Sheriff's Department, isn't here anymore, but I asked him about activity, and we've been very fortunate. There's not been a lot of Sheriff's Department activity in our area recently. That said, we constantly alert people if they see anything unusual in their area to contact the Sheriff's Department rather than say, I wish I would have and regret it later. So while there are a lot of white trucks out now, we always used to say to see a panel truck, a white truck, it might be suspicious. Amazon, I think all their trucks out there are now white panel trucks, so I don't know. Hopefully most of those were a white yellow vest rather than a sharp vest or something else, but be on the alert, and if you see anything suspicious, call the Sheriff's Department. Barrington Countryside Fire Protection District just approved a minor $15 million budget for next year. So, and that includes they are purchasing a $900,000 new fire engine. But they did sell that property next to Prairie Middle School. There was some objection to them building a fire station down there. They did complete the sale of that. They are looking for a third station location as we speak. And they are having a blood drive. I believe it's the last Saturday of the month down at the fire station. So I forget what the perk is for that, but it's always good to help save lives.
Get a
Get a pint, yeah, from Culver's Ice Cream. So I'll be giving 3. Not much to report, Tallgrass, but if you go on their website, I advise you, they now have an aerial drone shot of the entire Tallgrass property that is really interesting. It's a neat marketing piece for them, shows their completed houses and the open land, but it's a nice visual of Tallgrass. I tried to reach out to, they've gone through some salespeople transition, so hard to get a report going on. They're obviously eager to sell, but check the website and take a look at our beautiful countryside living from the air over Tallgrass. As far as LPS, we rehabbed the indoor pool. We've now redone our bocce ball courts and our tennis courts. So that's more of an oasis of countryside living at LPS. And that's all I have to report.
Questions for Trustee Scheller? Okay, 11H, Roads and Infrastructure, Trustee Perkins.
Well, we spoke a little bit before about Route 22 closing, and Dr. Juba, expand on that. I mean, we already talked about it. So.
Yeah, you'll be seeing some news reports on the proposed emergency vehicles only, and going through the culvert location and then the detour route. So that'll be upcoming in the newspaper, so keep an eye out for it.
That's it.
Hey, Leo.
Wait, Mr. President.
Just a suggestion.
I'm sorry, I was in a rush to complete my report. I want to hand out these 3 photos from the night evening, people dancing in front of the gazebo, and the dark photo. See if you can tell that they're where our village administrators danced.
And that should end up on YouTube.
Yeah.
And related to the Highway just a suggestion, if you need to go to the hospital from almost anywhere in the village, come down Kelsey Road. Do not go down 59 and try to come over Highway 22. I know Waukon Fire Department will be running their ambulances down Kelsey and Kelsey Road all the way to 22, but just as a precaution, if in fact you need an emergency, that's the easiest way to get there rather than try to bounce around.
Okay, hey, Leo, come here, man. Come on up here.
We've been waiting for you, Leo.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
You ready to start tonight?
Okay, Chair is going to waive agenda items 13 through 18 because there are no businesses. Ooh, okay. Now, what you're going to say is, may I have a motion to adjourn? Adjourn? Okay. May I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
By Trustee Scheller. May I have a second?
Second.
Okay. Now take this and bang it real hard, real hard.